Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our April meeting of West Perth Council. Just before we get down to the business of things, I'll just ask again, as you're coming in, if you haven't already signed the sheet, please sign the sheet. Just gives us a record of who all was here. And when we get into the public part of the meeting, I'll have some more instructions for you at that time. At this time, just before we get into the formal meeting, I would ask council and our guests, if they so wish, we'll just bow our head for a moment of silent reflection. Okay, thank you. So we'll call the meeting to order. I just want to make note that Councillor Feltz is not here tonight, and Councillor Fournier is on Zoom, and I see him in the corner of the screen there. So there's two empty chairs here, only one person missing. So the first item on our agenda is confirmation of the agenda as it was sent out. Is there any further additions to the agenda? Nope, so it'll be just as it was sent out. So do we have a mover and seconder for the agenda? Councillor Rose and Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Okay, don't see any hands going up. If you find that you're treading hot water as the night goes on, you can always declare it at that time. So we do have a number of items on the consent agenda. As a matter of fact, there's 11 items there. Is there anything there that anybody would like further information on or would like pulled and dealt with separately? Oh, Councillor Fournier's got his hand up. Andrew, go ahead.
It's the Heritage Organization Development Grant at 4.3, I believe, Your Worship. I'm actually from the McNabb Braeside area, and there's a few very, very interesting historical details about the area. And quite frankly, if I could vote to have us support this motion on their behalf, that would be fantastic. I don't know if anybody realizes, but McNabb Braeside actually had a very minor Civil War situation back in the 19th century. Longer story, but if you're interested, I'll tell you guys about it later.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. We'll deal with it right now, and if you were willing to move that.
I certainly am, Your Worship.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Duck, thank you. Okay, if you want to do any further discussion about it, Andrew, by now, or by all means right now would be a good time to do it.
Yeah, certainly. It's basically just that the original grant amount of I believe it's 1545 is not sufficient for doing much of anything these days. I think that if we have a cost of living adjustment when it comes to our employees, then we should be in favor of a cost adjustment for grants necessary for historical or community development.
Okay. Anybody else questions or discussion on that? Okay. It's been moved and seconded. So all those in favor of supporting this resolution? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay. Is there anything else anybody would like pulled and clarified at this time? Okay, then, whoops. Oh, sorry, Nicholas, go ahead.
Mayor McKenzie, the March 16th regular council meeting minutes 411, specifically on the motion about I'll just pull it up here that I have it right in front of me. The Heron Industrial Park Reserve activity, the 6.7.2, we received as council some follow-up information, and the motion was that the historical land cost adjustments as outlined in the report, but we received some clarifying information. So I'm assuming, and maybe through you to the treasurer, that we receive a follow-up report sometime in the future with those journal entries offsetting to reserves that we had the discussion at our last meeting. Is that, could I ask for some clarification on
Okay.
that one?
Do you want that added into the minutes?
No, not necessarily. Just that that the motion that we voted on, we had some clarification afterwards. And so I'm assuming that some new information will come forward from the treasurer in the future on what that reserve transaction will look like. Because we had talked about it offsetting assets. And I think the treasurer clarified to us at council that it would be a cash surplus, that it would be rather than offsetting assets.
Councillor McMurray, do you want to, Councillor, Treasurer McMurray, sorry.
Yeah, it's just might take me a second to catch up to that email that I sent, but that's kind of like a prior period flow through. So other years it's fallen through the surplus. And then so now it's kind of making that entry, it's a cash. It moves it out of the cash and into the reserve. So yeah, does that help?
Yes, it does. So just to clarify, I'm expecting then to see a cash surplus transaction somewhere that we can decide in the future to put towards tax stabilization as an example, because in our previous meeting, you discussed about putting it towards the asset, but that isn't the case.
Yeah, so maybe it'd be better for me to bring a report back than to try and speak to that on the fly, because there is no excess cash. Yeah.
Okay, sounds like my bank account. Okay, any other comments? Okay, we don't have to pull that one out, I don't think. The motion to accept consent agenda, I don't think we had a mover and seconder, did we? No, so it'll be a motion to accept the consent agenda 4.1 to 4.11 without 4.3. Does that make sense? So moved by Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any further discussion on any of that? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, thank you. So at this time, we will go into the public meeting for a couple planning matters or a planning matter. And so I will call this public meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. And at this time, I'll ask Clerk Hudson for the purpose of this public meeting.
Thank you. And through you, Chair. The purpose of the public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to bylaw 100/1998. That's the zoning bylaw, affecting lands legally described as Block 25, Registered Plan 44M88, Mitchell, in the municipality of West Perth. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision made by council, we ask that you provide your name, mailing address, and email to clerk@westperth.com. Thanks, and I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, as was stated just earlier, this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. Application submitted by GSP Group on behalf of 2756646 Ontario Inc. And I'll now call upon our planner for the county, John Bice, to review the application and present any correspondence received.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So before you today is zoning bylaw amendment 15 of 2025. It's at the red star, as you can see on the slides there. It's just north of Frank Street, and it is on the south side of Clayton Street. So the subject lands being about 6 acres in size, they're currently vacant. The application proposes to rezone these lands from the R3-1 zone to the R4-21 zone. And that's to permit the construction of 12 18-unit, 3-story stacked townhouses. The site-specific requests include the reduction of the front yard depth from 7.5 to 6 meters. And you could see where this would be located via the red line. And then the second one being to reduce the exterior side yard from 7.5 to 4.5. That is on the unopened Wimpole Street right of way. Next being the exterior side yard width along the unopened Vivian Street right of way, which would be 7.5 to 6 meters. And then to reduce the minimum rear yard depth of from 12 meters to 7.5 meters. There's also two requests to reduce minimum ground floor area dwelling unit requirements as well. So the subject lands are designated neighborhood in the official plan. This designation permits dwelling types of all kinds as long as they do not exceed 3 stories in height. The proposal is considered a form of infill development, which supports the goal of achieving a complete community. So just a bit of history. The traditional residential form within Perth County has been low density. However, there is a need for a steady increase in the share of medium and high density housing forms to respond to the housing needs of an aging demographic and the upward pressure on local housing prices and declining housing affordability. The 2023 Perth County Comprehensive Review concluded that there will be demand for 8,600 new housing units to 2051. The proposal is considered a medium density development and has demonstrated that 12, 18 unit stacked townhouses can adequately be accommodated on the site. The proposed site design is compatible with the existing height and massing of the neighborhood and provides an appropriate transition between the low density dwellings to the north. The applicants are establishing a land use pattern that makes efficient use of the lands and infrastructure. The proposal helps the municipality meet the minimum 15% intensification target identified through the Perth County official plan. The proposal also provides a mixture of housing types to the neighborhood in the area, in addition to the increased density, which both positively contribute to a mix and range of housing types and tenure to help meet the current and future market needs of residents. So the subject lands are also situated along the future Vivian Street right-of-way. The illustration on the left here identifies in the green hashing, the Vivian Street future right-of-way. Vivian Street is contemplated in the West Perth Parks and Trails Master Plan as a proposed urban greenway. So West Perth considers this north-south connection the ideal location for widened sidewalks with a buffer from traffic, shade trees, traffic calming measures, and separated or shared bike lanes with possible speed reductions. So the intent here would be to create a pedestrian-oriented route to encourage active mobility within the urban streets. The increased density that the application provides is best suited adjacent to transportation networks such as these urban greenways. And that's to adequately move the greatest number of residents. So the rezoning application proposes a number of site-specific reductions. I'll quickly get into. So again, 7.5 meters to 6 meters for the front yard depth in red, 7.5 to 6 meters for the Vivian Street exterior side yard, 7.5 to 4.5 meters for the unopened Wimpole Street right away in yellow. So the applicants have shown on their concept plan, which is on the screen for all to view, that adequate parking can be maintained on the site, and the reduction to the front yard depth and exterior side yard widths is not anticipated to negatively impact sight lines and normal use and maintenance of the streets. The rezoning application proposes to reduce the rear yard in blue, and that would be from 12 meters to 7.5 meters. Again, the applicants have identified that the lot is adequately sized to support a reduction to the rear yard without taking away the amenity space. The reduction to 7.5 meters is also not considered or not anticipated to create any sort of compatibility concerns with the neighboring property to the south. The application is also proposing to reduce the minimum 1 and 2 bedroom unit ground floor area requirements. Upon discussions with the building department, the building code requires 13.5 meters squared minimum for combined living, dining, bedroom and kitchen spaces. So as such, the reductions requested meet these requirements of the Ontario Building Code for safety. The Perth County official plan identifies that development proposals within 500 meters of a closed landfill will be accompanied by a study prepared by the proponent that satisfies the county and municipality and the requirements of the provincial guidelines related to land uses near landfills. And that's the D4 series guidelines that were created by the Ontario government. So the subject lands are in close proximity, as you can see on the slide, to the closed Napier Street landfill, which is located in the Mitchell Memorial Forest to the north. Presently, the applicants have not submitted their D4 study. However, they are currently working on the study, and it is recommended at this time that a holding provision be applied to the subject lands to prevent any development or site alteration until the study is completed and submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality and the county. So in order to lift this holding provisions, the applicants will need to submit a detailed D4 study that is satisfactory to both the county and the municipality. So once this satisfactory study is provided, the applicants will be required to submit a zoning bylaw amendment application to lift this holding provision. The overall development of the 12 18-unit stacked townhouses will be subject to site plan approval if the rezoning application and subsequent removal of the holding provision are approved. The site plan approval process will deal with items such as traffic, access, building layout, amenity space, landscape buffering, fencing, garbage, recycling, all of those types of uses. So notice of the application was provided, a notice of public meeting was provided to the naming property owners on March 18th in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. When I had created this PowerPoint, we had received 2 comments. Now we have received multiple. They should be in front of you guys as council by now. And that is the end of my presentation. So I can take any questions at the end.
Okay, thanks, John. I would suggest that you don't go too far away, but we'll proceed with the public part of our meeting. So at this time, I believe we have the applicant, I guess we'll call you applicants. You've applied for this, Jenna Wenzel and Hugh Handy. And I don't know if you have anything further you would like to say at this time. By all means, come up and take the floor.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hugh Handy, and I'm Vice President and Land Use Planner with GSP Group. I'm here this evening also with Jenna Wenzel, as you had mentioned, on behalf of the applicants. I have with me as well Nick Burkowski, who is one of the owners of the property, along with his dad. His dad sends his regrets this evening, as well as Jamie Dick, who is also sitting in the front row, and he's our engineer from MTE. I'll make a few comments this evening, Your Worship, and try not to overlap in what Mr. Bice has given in terms of an overview. As mentioned, Ivan and Nick Burkowski are the ownership group behind the Ontario Inc. company that are involved in Mitchell Woods subdivision. They, in addition to the block that's in front of you this evening that's in the plan of subdivision, there's also block 24 in blue that is part of future development as part of the subdivision. And then the green area is the lots that are either developed or under development at the moment as part of the Mitchell Woods subdivision. As Mr. Bice has indicated, this is a block and a plan of subdivision that was anticipated to be developed in the future and now is the future in terms of wishing to move forward. And as part of infill development, as Mr. Bice has indicated. The development includes the 216 units, approximately 324 parking spaces, which amounts to about 1.5 per unit, which would include accommodation for visitor parking on the site as part of that development. There's a community amenity area, which would be an open space area to serve the residents of this development. And we've looked at in terms of circulation that there will be an access to Clayton and ultimately to Vivian as this development, if approved, would have 2 access points. We have given just a concept reference. This is a development in Kitchener-Waterloo that Nick and his father had liked at least the layout and design. Obviously, the materials, the ultimate form would be something that would be considered through the site plan approval process and in more detailed design with their ultimate building partner on the project. As mentioned, this is in a residential area as part of your new official plan that ultimately that your planning department and council would want to see as part of an overall residential area within the municipality. As noted by John, there's also the closed landfill site that's to the north. I'll touch on that in a moment, but the D4 study that is being also conducted by MTE is in the final stages based on our verbal discussions with our consultant yesterday. We did not see any issue, or he did not see any issues. So we're hoping that that study can be wrapped up shortly and put in front of your staff and peer reviewer. The zoning bylaw amendment, I think, has been well explained. I won't go over that in any greater detail, but through working with staff through your pre-consultation process, that we feel that the development in front of you is reasonable. Obviously, it's a change. We recognize the comments, the further comments that have come in today. Traffic, change is never difficult. I deal with this every day of my career. And it doesn't mean that each neighborhood is different. Some of the similarities are the same, usually concern of traffic, parking, where are people going to recreate. So I look forward to having further discussion this evening and listening to the delegates. Ultimately, the technical studies that were part of our submission were a noise and vibration study looking at any impacts from the rail line to the north, Goderich-Exeter line. There was nothing that was noted as part of that study that could not be dealt with through design. An archaeological assessment was done. There was no findings as part of the site that would indicate anything that was needed to be dealt with through that. We've also done a functional servicing report. Servicing is available for the site. And as well as stormwater management. And Mr. Dick again is here if there's detailed questions of council that we can answer this evening. And the D4 study, as I said, is well underway, and we hope to have that in front of the municipality. But at this time, it's appropriate to put a holding provision on it. We're supportive of the recommendation before you this evening and recognize that you'll be hearing from other delegates this evening. But if we can answer any questions at the appropriate time, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would say, yeah, have a seat in the front row if you wish. Okay, at this time, we get into the more formal part of our public meeting. And I will ask if there's anybody in the room that wishes to speak in support, and then I'll ask if there's anybody that wishes to speak in opposition to this application. And then finally, I'll ask if there's any general comments from council for their input as well. I would just remind you that it is a public meeting, so I think treat everybody as you would wish to be treated yourself. So at this time, then, I will ask if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in support of this application. Okay, I don't see anybody. The next item would be, is there anybody that is opposed to this application? And that's fine. Yeah, put your hands up. Couple housekeeping rules. I want when you come up, and I'll just point, but when you come up, there's a little button on the speaker there, the red light. If the red light's on, we're good. We can hear you. We want you to state your name. Do we need an address?
If you'd like to share your address, yes, we don't require that, but
Okay.
name and address, if you'd like to share that, we'll keep that for the record.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, no, that's good. And then ask your question, and we'll try and get it answered the best we can at that time. So if you want to put your hand up again, I'll take right out in front here, and we'll start and our work our way around the room.
Mark Rose, Clayton Street. I actually have a few questions more than opposition. Is this going to be sold housing or rental housing?
We can do this two ways. I don't know if you want to get all the questions from each speaker first and then answer them, or do you want to answer them as we go along? Get all the questions. Okay, so if you give us the questions, then we'll call whoever needs to answer.
The second one is property maintenance. Is this going to be like a condo corp or a owner that looks after everything, lawn maintenance, snow removal? And are we going to have all kinds of equipment running up and down our street to look after this kind of operation? Traffic flow running up and down our streets. This is obviously something we weren't planning on happening. We were expecting residential housing of a single home nature, not big complexes. Has anybody done a study on our streets to see how this will impact us?
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
All right. No, they're all good questions. So I'll throw it out. I don't know who wants to answer these. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I heard three questions, and if I haven't got that right, the first one was, is this to be sold or rented? I don't know whether, Nick, you've decided on planned as condos. Okay, so they will be sold. I guess that still doesn't mean that it couldn't be rental, even if they're sold, but the idea is that they're owner occupied. And I think that condo, yes, this will be a condo, so there would be a board established. There would be rules of the condominium to maintain the property and the various services that are on it. And in terms of a traffic impact study or an analysis of traffic, that was not a requirement of the zoning bylaw amendment, but is a requirement of site plan approval. And I think Mr. Bice is nodding his head just that would be, and it would be looking at such thing as if any kind of improvements to the intersections or anything would be required.
Has that got it, Mark? I think so. John, I'm just wondering if you want to come up and explain the difference between the zoning that we're dealing with tonight and down the road, the site plan. And I know there's a lot of questions with regards to traffic, and that has come up that's part of the site plan.
Yeah, thank you. So through you, Mayor McKenzie, just to give kind of a framework of planning applications that are involved here. If the zoning bylaw amendment is approved, there'll be a hold applied. So first and foremost, the first thing that will be looked into would be the D4 landfill study. Once that is satisfactory, the applicants will apply for then another zoning bylaw amendment application. And this will be to lift the hold on the subject lands. And then at that point, they would be applying for what's called a site plan approval process. This is a detailed design process where we look at traffic, privacy fencing, we look at stormwater management, grading and drainage, functional servicing again. We look at things such as garbage collections, snow removal, parking, anything that's very detailed in nature, we'll take a look at. We'll run it through our what's called site plan guidelines. So there'll be some specific requirements for, parking signage, as well as we'll look at the fire routes. We'll look at other items, garbage collection, recycling, bicycle parking, and traffic. And then as they are doing a condo, there will be an application for a plan of condominium after the site plan approval process, unless they decide to apply for exemption from condo. But that is too far down the road, and I'm not too sure about that.
Okay, thanks, John. And I think that kind of lays out the process that's involved as we proceed with this application. Okay, I'll take another, yeah, at the back. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Allison Springate. I live in the north part of Clayton, close to the development. So good evening, council, and through you, mayor, to council, staff, and community members. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. When I first received the proposal to the bylaw amendment, or for the bylaw amendment, that would allow for a significant development on our street, I was taken back. And I may have uttered a few words to my husband that I won't repeat in front of you tonight. I wasn't upset about the land being developed. It's reasonable to assume that it would be at some point. Growth in and of itself is necessary when planned along necessary infrastructure and in harmony with community needs and values. In my view, that's when it's welcome. And in my view, that's not happening. My objection is that this proposed amendment paves the way for growth without necessary infrastructure and does not take into consideration our community needs or values. So let me explain a little bit. The proposed development allows for 216 units. That's a minimum of 216 individuals, but more realistically, we're looking at 550, accepting that most people live with a partner and/or children or roommates. Working off that assumption that each unit needs 2 incomes to be affordable, we're looking at 432 adults. To the best of my knowledge, there's not 432 jobs here in Mitchell. Yes, the development would take years to build, I get that. So jobs that aren't necessarily here today may come. I still question whether or not there's going to be 432 jobs when this is done. It also means that these individuals, like many of us living here already, will need to commute. They will commute for work, they will commute for groceries, doctors, childcare, and other needs that are not provided in total in Mitchell. Don't get me wrong, I love Mitchell. My husband and I chose to be here because of this community. We have great local businesses that we support. We have a good grocery store. We have some doctors. Sorry, I thought that was like, okay. I'm used to buzzers at my old municipality telling you to get off. Sorry. So as I say, we do have good doctors, good grocery stores. We do have one licensed childcare facility, as well as other individuals providing unlicensed care. However, there's still not enough. However, what we don't have is infrastructure to support 432 plus people, in my opinion. The doctors are not accepting more patients. There is a lack of childcare, as I said. And without a transit system or a cab service in place to help move people around, people will need to drive. And they will need to drive out of town. Mitchell is a commuter town. Since this notice came out, I've walked up and down my street and noticed that there's 1, maybe 2 homes that have 1 car. All the rest have 2 or 3. Assuming that 1.5 parking spaces per unit is sufficient, in my view, is poor municipal planning, even though I understand it's allowable under the bylaw. In Toronto, 1.5, I would argue, would be excessive. In Waterloo, it's probably spot on. In a commuter town like Mitchell, it is not enough. It is also not enough when you include that that is visitor parking as well. Honestly, whether a developer provides enough parking really shouldn't be my concern, except where it has the potential to impact the safety of my family and neighbors. There is not enough parking on this site. If there's not enough parking on this site, which I say there's not, people are going to be forced to park along Clayton. This will take away the enjoyment of kids playing on the street in the summer and increase the risk of someone being hit by a car in the winter. This one holds really dear to me. You see, Clayton, in the winter, our sidewalk does not get plowed. This year, I had to walk my son, who's just 13 months right now. I had to take him in a stroller on the road with our dog throughout the winter. I'm imagining 300 more cars on that street and parking on that street. It is going to narrow it and put us in danger. With this amendment, you will be increasing cars that use Clayton, the number of people that park on the street, and narrowing of that road. So let me maybe put this a little bit differently. I understand that what's before you tonight is a simple bylaw amendment. I get that. You aren't approving the detailed design yet. You aren't approving 324 parking spaces. You aren't responsible for how units are sold or rented or the composition of people that live there. Your job is to decide if the zoning attached to this parcel of land should be changed. I get that. I actually really get it. I've worked in municipal government for over a decade. I understand the decision you're making and I understand the process that was explained. It is really easy to say to residents, come back later. We're just rezoning the land now. Come back and talk to us during the detailed design and whatnot. And you're right. Tonight, you aren't deciding if those 1.5 spots is enough. You aren't deciding if reducing the setbacks or a smaller floor footprint is okay. You're not deciding if Clayton Street walkways should be plowed for the safety of residents, except that you are. If you pass this amendment tonight and refer those concerns to a further process, this development is going to happen. Once the land is rezoned, the development will happen and it will be to the letter of the bylaw, which it is tonight. There will only be 1.5 parking spots, including visitor parking. There will, I argue, be no visitor parking because those 1.5 spots will all be taken and so will the parking on the road. People will park on Clayton. They will use it as a main route in and out of this complex. Our street will become dangerous to walk on in the winter when the sidewalks are not clear. So here's the thing. Tonight is where the future of this town, of this street, and this parcel of land begins. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you ought to.
Okay, thank you. Good points again. A couple of things coming out of that, and I don't know who wants to comment on it. We don't have our operations manager here, but I believe he is online, but I don't know, John or even the engineer, Jamie Dick here, would comment on the infrastructure. And then the other question that I think is the other main one, is the parking. And I know John could probably comment on the parking if he wishes, but I don't know who wants to talk about the infrastructure. It's in the report, and I know I read it in the report, but who would like to comment here?
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. Yeah, JB Dick from MD Consultants. We prepared that functional servicing report, which speaks to the sanitary sewers, storm sewers, and water mains, and how they would function to support this size of development under this rezoning application. Everything was found to be adequate in terms of the number of residents and the proposed number of units that would be approved under this zoning bylaw. In terms of snow removal and things like that, that was not a part of the report that MT looks at. That would leave that to West Perth to comment on that, as well as the on-street parking. There was no requirement to look at the on-street parking and how the function of Clayton Street would work through the functional servicing report.
Okay, John, you're going to comment about the 1.5 parking spots?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor McKenzie, 1.5 parking is the minimum. That's the minimum requirement. West Perth currently doesn't have visitor parking minimums in its zoning bylaw. So it's something that the TIS should investigate, is whether or not additional parking through visitor parking should be included. And that will be done again at site plan.
And where does the 1.5 come from?
1.5 comes from your zoning bylaw amendment, or zoning bylaw, sorry. That is for stacked towns. It's 1.5 per unit.
Okay, and I guess my understanding or my question was that's the provincial guideline, is it not, for parking?
No,
No?
so through the mayor, that is West Perth's requirement. It's nothing to do with the provincial guidelines in any way. That is what West Perth considers adequate for stacked townhouses.
Okay, fair enough. I was wrong once before, I think so. Okay, thanks, John. Okay, yep, right over here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sarah Strite, and I live on Frank Street, 6043 Frank Street. And I put up my hand to speak next because many of the comments that were so eloquently prepared by the previous speaker are concerns that me and my family have on Frank Street as well. We have lived there since December of 2020, and construction has not stopped across the street from our house this entire time, and will not stop because there continues to be a field kitty corner to our driveway. We fully expect that will be developed. It's reasonable to expect. But the concerns that we have experienced with young children and dogs and traffic are only increasing. And so this is a substantial concern. I don't think the parking concern is as big of a concern on Frank Street, but Frank Street does not have a sidewalk. There's no speed enforcement measures. And as you know, it is a circuit route around Mitchell for those that want to bypass the main intersection of 23 and Highway 8. And we have a lot of vehicles, construction vehicles, school buses, and there's no consideration for pedestrian traffic. And this has only consistently gotten more and more dangerous for pedestrians. And with the addition of 324 plus cars having to navigate along Frank Street or this proposed new Vivian Street, which again will form a perimeter street around Frank Street, and therefore it's reasonable to expect that there will be a large amount of traffic down that street as well. And so I would respectfully request that traffic studies be done on Frank Street as well. And I loved the plan for the pedestrian considerations along the new future Vivian Street. It would be wonderful to see even a fraction of that along Frank Street. Again, because it is a perimeter street, anybody that's going to be walking their dog or trying to go for a run around Mitchell, they go past our house. Frank Street is on their route. And so I think that with more development in this corner of the town, I urge you to strongly consider extending some of these studies, traffic studies, pedestrian studies to Frank Street. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And we did kind of talk about the traffic study, I think previously, and that is part of the site plan, and the council's here to listen to your concerns and address it at that time. Sebastian.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sebastian Scala. I live on Fisher Road. I believe you all should have my letter of opposition someplace in your files.
Yeah, we have it here.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure that those issues were responded to somehow. I'm not sure how that will happen, but most of what I say there, I think has been brought up here tonight. One of the things that I'd like to respectfully ask that your planning engineer do is, with all the high density units that are being built in this town, I recall that when the slaughter plant went up, there were water issues and there were lagoon issues and so on. But our community now has really blossomed. And with all the high density units that are going up and are planning to go up, I just wanted to make sure that our infrastructure as it exists today is not going to have to be upgraded at the cost of the taxpayer, because that will have to come. As this subdivision starts to go up, there'll be concrete trucks and there'll be the transport ports and all kinds of heavy traffic on Fisher Road, for example. And who's going to pay for those infrastructure upgrades? Who's going to pay for the sidewalks so that Sarah can walk her children in safety? I just want to make sure that this council does their homework and does it very, very well, so that the taxpayers in the future won't get stuck for bills just for the sake of doing this. Those costs need to be put in place, and who pays for them? But how will my concerns be answered?
Well, we have your letter,
Yes.
and as we have everybody's
Yeah.
letter here, and it will be part of this whole process.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and I just want to say, I think we share the same concerns
Yes.
as a council as what you
course.
have. And I'm not sure which side of Fisher Road you live on, south or north?
I live on the
South.
south.
So you are probably down the road, and it may be many years from now. But you know what I'm going to say? You
And-
will probably need some sanitary sewers.
And yes, and that's another concern that I have with this development. If it's approved and it goes ahead, how will that impact us and sewers? Because I'm sure that somebody will be twisting our arm somehow to get away from septic systems.
The septic system will cause its own grief in the end.
Oh, I
You know,
absolutely.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
seen, I don't know where the sanitary sewers are slated for this project, but I don't think they go down Frank Street. They don't. So Frank Street is an item of itself, and,
Yep.
you know, it may not happen in your time or my time, but it probably will happen at some point down the road.
Yeah. Yep. I just want to make sure that this
Yeah.
council does its due diligence. All
And that's what we're trying to do, and that's part of this
Okay.
meeting tonight.
right, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Eight.
My name's Doug. I live at 77 Kenton Street. Can you tell me who owns the west side of Vivian Lane? It was purchased by the municipality about 6 years ago and then sold to a developer. Is it the same
He's
developer?
correct. He's correct. It was sold to the
Oh,
developer.
thank you. Always know the answers to the questions. I also know that there's a railroad crossing eventually. Can you elaborate? So in my opinion, just my opinion as a layperson, Wimpole Street should be put through to ease these people's burden behind me. Wimpole Street South, it's on the map. I've been looking at the CAO because and then Vivian Lane, which I'm going to call it Dungy Lane again, because I'll forget, should be completed before they get to start. Because that will ease the lady who's walking her kids. A lot of traffic will still go down Frank Street, and then it'll go all the way up Dungy Lane to the top of the hill, because we know nobody wants to come to 23 and 8. It's possible to turn left there. So those are concerns. I knew, Walter, that the sewer eventually will go down Frank Street, I would assume, to get Vivian Lane done. But that's another day's thing. I know you have to pass the bylaw. I know what the rules are. But I want to know if Dungy Street could be included, or Wimpole Street could be included. It's on the map, but there's no access from the subdivision. I have sat beside this gentleman's subdivision for approximately, when did you get it? 1998? Oh, no, 2018? 2000, and watched it meticulously slow, the semis being built, because I live at the end of that street. And I'm just wondering about, because I know they own both sides of the street. So they're going to be responsible to build Vivian Lane from the train tracks to on, but I don't know how the EA process is going. And maybe this isn't the place. This is the place to ask the question. I signed my sheet over there so I can get the information. But Wimpole Street out onto Frank, have Vivian Street done before this goes through. Construction traffic will not have to go down Clayton Street. And you're talking 1,000 cars a day. 450 cars got to go out to work. 450 cars got to come back to work. So those are just a couple questions I have, but most of them are site plan recorded except Wimpole Street, I believe. That's a council decision. You could probably force them to build Wimpole Street as part of their subdivision application. Thank you.
Dan, you want to comment on that?
I think, yeah, there's a couple things there, and maybe if I can back up, I think it was Sarah that was up. So if you recall when Mr. Bice had the map up that showed that green gateway, there was the green hatching along Frank Street as well. So again, that's the master plan that would show that as a gateway. So that would have that large boulevard for public access for walking and stuff. So similar as what you were envisioning on Vivian. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And again, I think coming back to, there was a question about how everything is paid for municipalities. So I'll just make the comment that from this council's perspective, growth pays for growth. There is an avenue of development charges that come in when new development has happened. So there's lots of projects and calculations that go into that. So essentially, there's going to be some of the burden on infrastructure upgrades that are needed to municipality are recovered through development charges as well. And that's been an aspect that's been making the news lately, with the provincial government looking to cut development charges in half in some cases. So, but that's the use and what development charges are for. As we jump into, so it's a different developer that owns the other side of Vivian Street. It's not the same developer. So just for yourself, Doug, for that note. The environmental assessment is underway for the railroad crossing. It's not something that the municipality is in control of. We can't just cross a railroad. There's permitting that has to happen. And I don't know the timeline on either A, this development, or B, that railroad crossing, but it is the plan that there will be that crossing. And we are in cost sharing negotiations with multiple developers in this area right now for the infrastructure in this area. Wimpole Street is something we've identified. We identified it shortly prior to, and we've had some discussions about potentially looking at that avenue as another one, or as an avenue of declaring surplus. So we were hoping it would come up tonight in some discussion as well. But I'd say it's a relatively new iron to the fire, so to speak, is that Wimpole Street area. So I think that answers everything that, right?
That's good. Thanks, Dan. Any other questions? Come on up.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Kicks. I'm at 87 Clayton, so North Clayton Street. I'm concerned because when we moved in a year and a half ago, we were told that the density would be houses, duplexes, maybe some townhouses, and we were expecting a medium density. We checked on that before we signed our papers. We looked at the street. We went up and down, drove all around all the streets. And now it's going to change. The density is going to change, the traffic levels are going to change. Even water infrastructure, because you put that much pavement down, and with the rain we've been getting the last year and a half, you're going to have problems with flooding. So there's going to be a lot of changes there. A lot of people have the same concerns that I do, but I really kind of disappointed that even though I expected development, I didn't expect 217 units. That's the size that Kitchener gets and Cambridge and London. But we're a town of 5,000. And I think, you know, with the development in other areas as well, it's just really, really large to put in one area. We could spread it out and it could be more integrated with the street. That's my main concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just with regards to, again, it's kind of an operational question with regards to worrying about flooding and stormwater management. Again, it ties back to the previous comments that we had about, and Jamie, I don't know if you want to answer it again, but it's based on the infrastructure that's there and they've looked into it. They know what the sizes are. So yeah, if you just want to comment.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. Yeah, this, obviously, any sort of development with this amount of pavement, you are correct, will create surface ponding. But through the stormwater management design that we've proposed in the functional servicing report, adequate storage to contain the stormwater on the site and provide safe discharge towards the west is what's been proposed. Through the site plan application, that would be further refined and detailed design would be completed and approved by the municipality prior to any approval being given.
Okay, thanks. I think the other thing that you got to keep in mind, and I know it's hard to keep in mind because you see this one figure, that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a number of years, I would assume, to reach that. And I don't know if you have a timeline or not, but I'm assuming, and if you want to speak for yourself, you can, but I'm assuming you're going to put up at some point in time one unit. And when it gets filled, then you'll look at another. So it would be a number of years before it would ever reach the total amount that we're talking about here. Yeah, go ahead if you wish. Yeah. Yeah.
My name is Nick Pekarski. I'm a partner on this project with my father, Ivan Pekarski. We purchased this 2018 with a partner who unfortunately, not to get into legal things, but took a lot of money and from Guelph, from many different places and took off. We're not big developers. This is our first project we're looking at doing ever. This is not to make people mad. This is not to upset people. We're looking, my father's in residential real estate. I do commercial real estate myself, and we're looking at something where we can provide a housing opportunity that is affordable for people. We figured with adding this density, we can sell these units for much less and, you know, provide something that somebody can own a unit and not have to rent. I understand the concerns for sure. I have 4 kids myself. I'm from small towns. I lived in Plattsville for a while. I lived in Baden and New Hamburg. So I do get the concerns and we're trying to address as much as we can. We're doing the studies we need to. And I felt like I should come up and speak just so people here know who I am too and what we're doing. We're not big guys. We don't have the funds to build a massive project right away. So it would be 1 or 2 buildings at one time, fill them up and then continue on. That's the plan.
Okay, no,
Okay,
fair
thank you.
enough. There was a question back here. Yep, come on up.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Ben Davey, I live on Clayton Street. You guys should all have the email I sent in earlier today in front of me, or in front of you. I have some additional comments on top of that, and I'd like to highlight some of the more important things from that I think a lot of it has also been covered by a number of people in the room already, so I try not to dwell on things that have already been beaten to death, like traffic concerns. Skip right over that. I reviewed the complex plans and the planning document today. The amount of snow storage identified on the plan is laughable. I understand this is a preliminary plan just for the purpose of a bylaw amendment, but the design group may not realize that Mitchell sits firmly in the snow belt, and the amount of snow we got this morning would more than fill up what they've got planned for snow pile. I would encourage them to come to Mitchell sometime in the winter time and drive around and look at some of the other parking lots to get an idea of how much snow they're going to need to store. The 2021 census found Mitchell with an average of 2.4 people per household, no public transit, and as mentioned, I would guess the majority of the town's population commutes by car. I recognize that we've discussed the 1.5 parking space minimum. That's simply not enough for the town of Mitchell and will result in street parking, cluttering up our streets, which is not possible in the wintertime, introduces even more problems. It's not going to work. I'd like to know what indication we have this type of housing is even desired in Mitchell. Semi-detached and townhomes are currently selling slowly. The market has cooled off. Who is the target market for this home? I recognize we have a need for lower income housing, but Mitchell does not have the job market to support this. The planning justification document references a townhouse development in Kitchener as justification for a smaller unit size. Again, I recognize and understand the need for lower priced housing options, but Mitchell is not Kitchener and does not have the same job market. It is not catered to the same demographic who would occupy a similar development in Kitchener. Council has already identified a need for a new park in that corner of Mitchell. A development like this would vastly increase the urgency and the scale that park would need to be. This is a 216 unit development being proposed. Again, the 2021 census identified 1950 occupied dwellings in Mitchell. That's an increase of 10% of the town of Mitchell in a single development. The planning justification document mentions Mitchell JC Park nearby. I think anybody in the room would be hard pressed to spend an afternoon at Mitchell JC Park with their family and call that a park. Perth Care for Kids already has years-long wait lists for childcare. What is being done to address that if we plan to raise our population 10% with this single development? Our public schools are bursting at the seams. What is being done to address that if we plan to raise our population 10% with a single development? The planning justification document briefly touches on this and mentions that Huron-Perth Catholic School Board and Upper Grand District School Board will be engaged for comments on the application. I'd like to ask why Upper Grand School Board is involved at all and whether Avon Maitland, the actual school board in this area, has been thought of or contacted. This is overdevelopment. Mitchell is not equipped to handle this large, this quickly. I'm not against the growth in Mitchell as long as it's well thought up and planned. This is not. This is a development group with little experience and unfamiliar with the area who are not equipped to see this project through. And finally, I'd like to ask the development group if they truly believe in the project they're proposing today. And if so, why is the lot currently for sale if they plan to develop and sell these as condos? Thank you.
I don't know if there's any comments. I also noticed, and I had missed mentioning that previous about Upper Grand. I assume that was a typo.
Take ownership of that. That is a typo in our report.
I guess to answer your question about Perth Care for Kids and childcare, it's something that we are currently aware of and are very well aware of. And it's not just unique to West Perth. It's also unique to centers bigger than us, such as Stratford, St. Mary's, even North Perth. And we are trying to work with Stratford jointly on that to see whether we can alleviate some of that issues. But things like that just don't happen overnight. It takes a bit of work and smoothing to get that. So we're well aware of that concern. Any other questions out there? Yep, come ahead.
Hi there, my name is Julie Thiessen, and I know traffic is being extensively addressed, but I do live on Clayton Street. And on our street, our children play in the streets. They play out front. We know our kids, we know our neighbors. That's what Mitchell's about, right? Like we do know, what's going on in our neighborhood, and we watch out for each other. I have seen an increase of traffic in our area, especially since the new developments down at the end. And also people living on Kenton go racing down our street because they don't live on our street. They race down our street, and we have on numerous occasions had to stop traffic and like remove the kids from the street. We've also had to go after cars and say, like, you need to slow down. We already know that we don't have the policing to police people like this. They would have to sit on our streets and watch for it. I have a huge concern because I've had to pull, I watch out. My children aren't young. I don't have young children, and I watch out for the kids. With an extra 500 cars, I'm concerned. If there's going to be another exit out of that development down Vivian or Wimple, you said it's traffic calming. Clayton isn't. So they're going to choose Clayton where they can race down it. They're not, if it's traffic calming, I don't know what that means, if there's going to be speed bumps, but people aren't going to be choosing that way out. And they have a lot of road to go past to get to the highway. So I'm just very concerned about the traffic as it stands today, let alone adding this many more units, especially if there's no jobs and they're not staying in the community and they're not people from the community. Has anybody also addressed the farm that will be right adjacent to this property? My concern is also that's like the kids in the neighborhood go to this farm. And if there's going to be a huge amount of 217 new units going in right beside it, does that mean that the farm can no longer operate as they wish? Like, has that been addressed with?
I guess I could have our planner answer that, probably as good as anybody.
Smell, like, I'm not worried about it, but if you're gonna add that many people from the city moving in, that's what, like, a lot of kids go over to that farm and they see, they see the animals, and it's part of our community too.
You're always going to have
Yep.
a conflict when any time between
you're
urban and
removing
rural.
Also the space in between, right? You're trying to minimize the lot size.
While we're trying to take up less agricultural land for development.
Yeah.
John, do you want to just comment on that?
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So the property directly to the south is zoned for future development. So eventually, some sort of future development will occur there that fits with the neighborhood designation in the official plan. That property is located within the settlement boundary of Mitchell, and as such will eventually stop being a farm.
But as we go to the west,
Were we
there's
talking about
agricultural
that?
land to the west, so isn't there, eh?
Yes, so that is also in the settlement area of Mitchell and will eventually, it is also zoned for future development.
Okay. Keep pushing the wrong button all the time. Any other questions? I do want, okay, I'm not trying to cut it short. I want to get everybody's comments, but I do want to get input from council as well.
Hi, my name is Brian Kicks, and I live at 87 Clayton Street. My wife and I, we moved here on the pretenses that we would be in a residential area, place that we could come to and retire and not worry about things. We've been dealing with a lot of physical problems, and we just want a place that we can feel comfortable and not deal with excessive traffic and a lot of extra strain on the town we live in. When we first came, we were told about the just being a residential area, and there were going to be townhouses and just just a couple stories high. And then we find out that this big community basically is what it is. It's a community of townhouses, and you're bringing in hundreds of extra people. We're probably talking about close to 400, I would think, just in that area. So you've got all these beautiful homes all the way along, and then you come to the near Kenton Street there, and you've got these big townhouses. You're going to have a whole community just on the other side of houses, just on the other side of where we live. And we were really shocked by this and appalled that we would have to deal with something like that. Just wanted to let you know that how it affects us. And I think it'll affect the whole town in a lot of different ways. The schools are going to be exploding with kids. We won't be able to handle the influx of such a large denomination of people. Right now, there's a lot of traffic going through. What about going on to 23? That's going to be a constant, be like the 401. Yeah, it'll be extremely busy. Anyways, just wanted to say thank you very much for your time and for listening to us, and we appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, any questions, comments from council members? I didn't see her. I'm sorry, Doug. You live on what street is it, Kenton? Yeah, there's been rumors about speeders on Kenton. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't come with anything prepared to say. My name's Audrine Spence, and I live on Clayton Street. I moved here from Cambridge in 2021 because Cambridge had started developments like this. I lived in Cambridge from when I was 4 years old, and it turned into a completely different city. And we moved here so that our daughter would have the experience that we had when Cambridge was much smaller. When we moved here, we were told about the development that was coming right beside us. We were told kind of what kind of houses would be there, everything like that. And I feel like to a lot of people that moved here, a lot of the people that maybe even sold here, it almost feels like a bait and switch that we're suddenly being told it's not that anymore. Now it's turning into something completely different. And my question is, what is really the need in the city for that type of development? Is there an actual need for that they're making these changes to bylaws and changes to zoning? Reason that they can't work within the zoning and the bylaws that are already there? Is it just to recoup their losses that they talked about from the one person that they were partner with? Or is it more than that? Is it actually what the city needs?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I can take a bit of a stab at your question. And I think it's multifaceted, but essentially there is growth studies that are done for the community of West Perth that show there is a need for housing. And I think what we need to remember is that municipalities follow provincial legislation. So from a provincial standpoint, there's a need for all sorts of housing. There's a need for singles, there's a need for semis, and there's a need for high densities and medium densities. And that's what municipalities have been mandated to approve. And I appreciate, and I think everyone around the table appreciates your comments that it changes your community. I think you've spoken very well to that. But the municipality is a creature of the province, and the province has mandated us to change and to grow. And that's one of the reasons why. Outside of that, specifically to the zoning bylaw and some of the aspects there, our zoning bylaw, the date on it is 1998. 1998. So our bylaw was created in 1998. It wasn't created to handle this type of, not just this type of development, but the developments that we're seeing across the board in the municipality. So the municipality is currently under a comprehensive review with the county planning department, as is every lower municipality in Perth County, to update their zoning bylaws because they are out of date and they're not up to standard with the direction that municipalities have been given today through the Premier's office. I do also just, well, I can, Avon-Maitland District School Board, as well as here on Perth, are both agencies that get circulated, just like you've all been circulated of this application. And I'll maybe put John on the hot spot here, but John, did we receive any comments or concerns from either school board? We did not. Okay, thank you.
Keep putting hands up. Person at the back.
My name is Joe Nicholson. I live on Frank Street. I'm not a public speaker by any means. I guess I'm curious at the amount of traffic, and I second that lady's concern about the road and basically the sidewalks on Frank Street and the raceway and the speed control measures. And I guess I'm curious the need for this. The developers mentioned they would build as they sold. How does that work if by chance they only sell one or two? Is this a 10 or 15-year project, or how does that go ahead?
Well, I guess he kind of explained that previously, that they would build one or two and see how that goes. And, you know, I guess if they filled up.
Well, I guess I'm curious, like the need, if there is a need, that is fine, but who says there is a need for this? I'm kind of.
You can try that one again.
Yeah, I think so. There are studies that show there is growth needed in the municipality, and particularly in Mitchell. There are mandates from the province that say we need to increase our density. I think the mayor's pointed out prior to this that by increasing our density in the town of Mitchell, we're protecting the ag land surrounding the town of Mitchell, so we're not having urban sprawl. I think it was mentioned previously, I think by John and the developer too, that when you're increasing density, you're reducing your cost overall for the units of housing. Likewise, I think the developer themselves are a private business, and they obviously understand to a degree that they think they can make money. So they assess they assess and they believe there's a need for this type of housing in this area. And I'll point out that they did also speak to the other subdivision just to the north. This is technically, I believe this is phase 2 of 3 phases for the original plan of this subdivision, which was on that extension of Kenton and Clayton as well. So they understand their markets and they think there's a need. And if there's not and they're wrong, then I don't know how they would handle that. That's not for me to discuss.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So just on that note, I guess, you know, and you can tell by the color of my hair, but I can certainly remember when Fisher Road was a farm off of the road, and that's been developed, you know, certainly over the years. And that's what happens, you know, like there's always going to be a certain amount of change. Nothing stays the same forever. And we kind of realize that as time goes on. So was there one more hand up back here? You're stretching, were you? Yeah, you're stretching. Okay. If there is no more questions from the audience, and I don't want to cut you short, like I'm trying to give everybody an opportunity here, but I will ask council if they have any questions or comments that they wish to make at this time. Counselor Foster.
The D4 study on the landfill being part of the zoning application, when it's completed, will it be available for the public or will it be rolled into the site plan? Or how will that work?
Sorry, I was just getting a note following that Councillor Fournier's hand was up as well. But yes, it can be available. Yep. If it was ready, it would be in the packet.
Councillor Fournier.
I do fully appreciate all of the points that the people concerned about this development are making. When I was rather a lot younger, the Highway 417 turned into 4 lanes all the way from Ottawa up to Arnprior, which is close to the area where I grew up. And Arnprior experienced just an incredible amount of growth. Something like 25,000 new people moved in 10 years. So I understand the inherent tragedy of having your town change so very severely. On the other hand, I've had quite a number of people in the area just very recently ask me if they know of any places that are available for rent. And I'm talking about a retired couple who are being evicted from the farmhouse that they've been renting because it's being developed into it's being renovated into a better place and being sold to relatives of the owner of the farm. I have more than a handful of stories like that. The rental availability in our area is so low that I have friends who have full-time jobs who occasionally experience temporary homelessness because there is nowhere to rent. So addressing that issue, I understand the tragedy of seeing the community that you've grown to love and grow up in change so much. But not only do we have situations of people who need a place to live in the area or they have to move, but we also have the situation in the industrial area of Mitchell where we have, I'm not sure how many hundreds, but it's more than 200 people who work in Mitchell but can't live in Mitchell. And we have people commuting from Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, London to work here for 8 to 12 hours and then take that long drive home. And even just having to do that through the winter once would make you want to move to Mitchell if you possibly could. So it's not so much a matter that we don't have an extra 400 new jobs coming up, but we very likely have at least half that in jobs that are being occupied by people who work here in town and then go back to a different community and spend their money. So I can see a certain necessity just to have more spaces for people who are already part of this community in an economic sense, become part of this community in a community sense as well. So my heartfelt sympathies to everyone that sees how much this might change your community. But there are people in need, and there are people currently working here in town, hundreds of them, that could live here but can't. And that is one of the things that this would address, however drastic a change it may be. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Fournier. Anybody? Councillor Duck.
I was just going to ask for a point of clarification. The D4 study we're waiting on, that's just because it's not quite prepared yet and we're waiting on that, or? I just want to know why basically we're fast forwarding, or I shouldn't say fast forward, but proving without that, unless it's maybe just a situation like that.
Yeah, so with the preparation of a D4 study, there is a freedom of information request that is made to all the to municipalities and the parties that have the information related to the landfill, which took a extended period of time to get responses to. So once we got those responses, we were able to put the report together fairly quickly, and we're just finalizing it right now. So thanks.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Just going to ask a follow-up question, actually not follow-up to that, but just to some of the concerns about the construction, the vehicles on the road. When it gets to the point of actual construction, is there ways that we could say limit the, I don't think, now I'm saying you probably can, but you somewhat keep the construction to a daytime when people are at school or at work, and it's going to have the least amount of effect on people's day-to-day. Like we could, if they're having heavy trucks come in or big things like that, set it between 9 and 4 and then have the other trucks that are still working, you know, outside of those hours. But is there a way that we could potentially help these people out? And then just the second question I was going to make, just maybe make a note for our winter operations talk, if we could maybe just look at having that part of Clayton Street plowed, if that would certainly alleviate some of these people's concerns about, you know, walking their dog and their family. I certainly think that that would just be a note we could maybe ask for Adam to potentially look at for our winter operations. So yeah, that was my two questions. Can we limit the hours in which the big trucks and stuff would be operating on our roads for this specific construction project? And then, yeah, to go back with Adam on the Clayton Street plowing. Thank you.
I'll get James to answer that, but you do know that we do have a noise bylaw.
Certainly, but a big truck may not make as much noise as the safety impact that people are concerned about. So if they're, you know, multiple
But
trucks.
we do have ours. James, go ahead.
Through the chair, I would just comment there. Our noise bylaw does currently govern construction equipment and construction activity, including this type of activity. So it would be in accordance with the noise bylaw.
I can provide. So before any development gets started, that there is an on-site meeting to review best practice and routes. I think tonight, you know, there's been some discussion on the potential of Whimple as well and bringing that in. So I don't know if there's any appetite from council to explore the options that present itself there with that road allowance more. Likewise, if there's any appetite from the developer to explore that option as well. Potentially that in itself could alleviate traffic concerns on Clayton and other areas. There could be even the potential for a construction access through that road allowance at a minimum if it's deemed appropriate. I don't know, but all those things are looked at particularly beforehand and reviewed on site prior to any construction that takes place on there. From the sidewalk plow perspective, we'll certainly take a look at it. I would just, you know, make note that if and when Vivian comes on, generally our standard is more towards north and south avenues, but for sure we can review it in winter maintenance operations to review Clayton Street as well for future snow removal.
Okay, anybody else? Deputy Mayor?
Councillor O'Donnell had his hand up first.
You're so polite. Go ahead, Councillor
Thanks,
O'Donnell.
Mayor. With the current zoning, how many units could be proposed on this parcel currently? I know with those duplexes on Clayton, I do notice some basement apartments, so is that something that they could consider?
I don't know who you want to address that to.
Through John.
John?
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, the current R3 zoning would permit anything similar to, you know, duplex, semi-detached, single detached dwellings. There hasn't been an exercise that I know of that has investigated the number of units, but all singles and semis and duplexes are subject to as of right zoning, which means up to 3 units can be accommodated on those properties. So whatever number it ends up being, if there's a any sort of practice that goes ahead and looks at that, you can multiply that by 3 per unit.
Okay, Phil. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, your worship, I have a list, so I'm gonna try and go through it as quick as I can. Okay, traffic impact study. This has been discussed. Curious why this wasn't included in the planning justification report and why it was required at the site application process. So I just wanted to ask again through the planner, when will this be done? And will this council get to see that traffic impact study? That's my first question.
You're addressing that to John, I believe, are you?
Yes, to John Bice, our planner.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor, traffic impact study is normally asked for at time of site plan, because most of the time at detailed design, things change. Layouts change, park area, amenity areas move, driveways might change, small things change that impact the traffic impact study, and we want the traffic impact study to adequately address what's going to end up on the site. So that's typically why it's done at site plan. Site plan approval process isn't a process that's circulated for public. It is a planning application that is dealt with between the municipality, county, municipalities, engineer BM Ross, as well as the applicant's agent, and specifically most importantly, the building department for West Perth.
I guess the supplementary question on that response, if I could. The reason that site applications are dealt with by staff and no longer by councils is because there's a provincial change in regulation making that switch. It used to be site plan applications used to be forwarded for council for review, but now the province has changed it that council is no longer involved in that process, correct?
So through the mayor, that very well might be correct. I'm not too sure. All I can say is the legislative requirements of the Planning Act don't require public notice circulation currently for site plan applications.
Thank you. So I'll stay on the traffic. So when I reviewed this file prior to the meeting, I too noted the idea of one point of traffic entry and egress off of Clayton. That was a concern to me. It would be very problematic to have only one point of entry in and out of this proposed development. My question was, why hasn't consideration been given for a second access or exit point, even though the site plan's in a preliminary stage? My observation was that at the very least, having access onto the Wimpole right-of-way allowance and then connecting to Frank Street seems like a logical choice. And then as a staff have explained further, when Vivian or Dungy Lane, whatever you want to call it, it'll be formally called Vivian, that right-of-way will be created eventually. So if staff were looking for a direction, I would support the direction of exploring both the Vivian access for this potential traffic from this proposed development onto Wimpole as well as Vivian. The D4 abandoned landfill study, that's been explained. Also there will be a hold applied on the landfill study until it's received. So the hydrant flow test, there's a question about that. I believe the answer is that will also be dealt with at the site plan application process. Okay, so now I'll dive in a little bit deeper. One of the letters, and I just had a brief opportunity to read it. One of the letters from one of the ratepayers, it discussed, referred back to the official plan about densities. 52% low density, 31% medium density, 17% high density. So now I'm looking at section 2.4 of the county official plan, and it's section 2.3.1. So it says that the Perth County the 2023 Perth County Comprehensive Review conducted that there will be demand for 8,600 new housing units to 2051. And the comprehensive review that estimated that the demand for housing forms would fall into the following density categories: 52% low, 31% medium, 17% high. So either through the county planner or the planner representing the applicant, how does this comment and the official plan intersect with the notion that this is going to, it's going to be the stacked townhouse concept? Just wanted to get some more insight on the thought process behind that, if I could, please.
Sure. So through the mayor, those specific requirements include existing housing stock as well. So the traditional development process throughout West Perth has normally been low density. So those numbers are reflected. This development is considered a medium density development as per the official plan definitions of low, medium, and high density developments, as they do not exceed 3 stories in height. Excuse me. So that is the planning rationale for the proposal, but I would be happy to have Hugh or Jenna come up and explain further.
Yes, if we could, please, I'd like to learn more. If I could, thanks.
Through your worship to the councillor, as part of reviewing the official plan, it's to look at providing each of those categories. So to echo what John has, Mr. Bice has said, this would satisfy some of that medium density requirements in the official plan.
I guess my questions now turn to the applicant, the proponent. Why, so if medium density is the goal, why just stack townhouses and why not a mix of different options, as might be seen in the proposals that this council has seen in adjacent developments in and around Clayton Street? Just again, I'd like to learn more about that thought process if I could.
Through you again, your worship to the councillor. We had looked at various options and discussed those with the client and felt that having sort of a standard form of housing in the development would be the best. The form, I guess, could take, you could do a single unit as one of those rather than doing a stacked product. Because you're, and even looking at, driving through the neighborhood again today and looking at your semi-detached units, 2-story, the form would be similar to that, but that's through discussions with our client. That's what we felt was appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Guess there's one other thought there, and I just could I get your perspective on the traffic? I heard from John Bice, our planner. I just surprised that this large of an area would only be serviced by one access and exit point. So just again, the thought process on that.
Yes, through your worship to the councillor, the site plan actually does show a second access to Vivian at the present time, and maybe just to clarify that. But obviously Vivian comes with development on the west side of the future Vivian to have that road go through. So there is intention to have 2 access points to the development ultimately.
I guess that wasn't clear to me when I read it because I saw Clayton exists and it's there, but Vivian isn't. So I didn't make no problem. Didn't quite make the full connection. I guess I guess I'm done with questions. I just wanted Councillor Fournier raised a point about let's turn back to my notes here about rentals and the need for current employees that live or that work here in West Perth, but their housing is outside the community. And I can concur with Councillor Fournier's comment. I too have had discussions with West Perth employers and over a span of, during this council term, and I have heard from them that they did desire that their employees did desire to find accommodations in Mitchell or closer to reduce the commute, especially during the winter months. And I guess there on the needs study, there was something called the Watson Report, which I guess is in fact the 2023 Perth County Comprehensive Review. That study formed the basis for the official plan, Perth County official plan, and it's that same information that's compiled by the Watson Report is the same information, if I understand correctly. And John can maybe help me out with this. that information, that data on population growth, population trends is the same set of data that the province will use, i.e. that the finance ministry and the province will use for their calculations, and that information is shared with the Ministry of Education, who in turn share it with the school boards. Am I correct in that, John?
Through the mayor, I'm actually not too sure about that. So I would see if you have any. I'm not too sure.
So I'm trying to make a correlation between the data that's used to drive the recommendations for this application, trying to correlate that data with the data that the other authorities use, like the school board, perhaps the Ministry of Health, because the audience has mentioned their concerns about the amenities, the supporting amenities that are required in the community.
I guess through your worship to the councillor, in developing your official plan, those are usually numbers that are the basis for developing overall needs. So I would agree with you to that extent that, and then obviously through more site-specific things like parks and recreation master plans and those types of studies, those then develop your overall community and what needs you might have.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions and comments, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Brink.
Mayor McKenzie, I was wondering if maybe we could hear what the next steps look like when we might consider the bylaw in the future, at a future date, or any of how that might look from the clerk.
So with respect to considering the bylaw of future, so council has a recommendation before you in the agenda package. Certainly council has the option to consider that recommendation, or we've heard from the public this evening. You also have the opportunity to receive that for information and refer the application back to staff. So at this time, council's not made a decision on the application. Is that fair enough for now? Okay, thank you.
Yes, you can come up. Sure.
We live at 6183 Frank Street. We are the dairy goat farm on Frank Street. And we are not zoned for future development. We saw that, and I am as fast as I could get here safely. We have a lot of little kids too on our farm. And here's the thing. If you put this massive development right across the road from us, you're ruining our future farm. You're ruining our children's lives. We already have a lot of issues just with snow removal. We have a lot of trespassing, a lot of theft. And I'm not saying it's locals that are doing all the trespassing and the theft. I'm just saying it happens a lot. I have a farm stand and 80% of our stuff gets stolen. But I'm just saying, like, we're just trying to express like our concerns regarding it. This development will significantly affect our ability to continue and grow our farm and our businesses. In particular, it will limit future expansion opportunities, which are essential for the long-term sustainability of our farm. We provide jobs for the community. We won't be able to provide jobs if you take away our future development. We are also like an essential part of the community. Like, we got the dairy farms. We provide for people. We provide your food. We provide your milk. We provide that. I'm not saying like we're the only people that provide that, but dairy farms provide food. We provide the animals, the food. Farmers feed cities, you know what they say? There's also concerns regarding normal farming practices such as manure spreading and the increased proximity to residential development, which often leads to complaints about smells. There's already a lot of people complaining like the smells are too strong. You bring in a lot of people that are not familiar with farming and the city, and there's going to be twice as many complaints. We're just doing what we have to do to survive and to grow our farm. And despite these being a natural and necessary part of agriculture, like it's just going to get worse. Additionally, trespassing is already an ongoing issue. People come into our fields, they walk their dogs there, they think that we are public property because there's nowhere else in town to really walk them safely. So they already trespass. People steal, I already mentioned that. This development will likely make that situation worse. If you're bringing in, what was the number? 324 more cars or people, and then their spouses, their kids, like, we have animals in the fields. They're going to be coming into these fields and they're going to be going up to the animals. We have probably 5 no trespassing signs already, and people are going to come into these animals if they're not used to them. They could be potentially be exposed to danger. The animals are exposed to danger. You're putting like our animals at risk. People are at risk because they do not understand the farm life. Overall, like, this development really poses a serious safety concern about like future viability for the farm, our children's futures, all this traffic that we are not used to. Like, you're putting the road in right across from our farm, like our laneway. Our kids get on the bus there. We have 3 really small children right now and multiples at that. Like, you know what the twin life is like, then you know what it's like. We're already busy chasing them. We have a lot to do, and we don't want to worry about another 500 cars driving up and down our laneway. Like, even Amazon go down our laneway going 50. They don't know it's not a road. You bring in all these new people, they're not going to pay attention and they're going to think that we're a road. So something has to be done about that. Because like, farming is an essential part of the world. If it stops, people don't eat anymore. I'm just saying, like, that's our concern, is you're putting our farm at risk by this development. People are not used to it. I'm just going to stop talking before I start cursing. So that's it.
We appreciate your comments, and I think everybody here is fully aware of your concerns. And as I said earlier in the meeting, it's a typical urban rural mix where you get that dividing line, and you're all, you're going to have issues there, and we can appreciate where you're coming from for sure. So thank you. Did you run back here? Oh, I thought you're out of breath. Thank you. Anybody else here? I don't know if that's for her comments or because she's such a speedy runner. Okay, if there's no further comments, then I would like to thank everybody for their comments. We certainly do, and I'm serious about that. We appreciate everybody's comments this evening. I want to commend you on your mannerism tonight. Sometimes when you get a large crowd like this, they're not always maybe the most polite, but you were very good, and thank you. Should council proceed with the adoption of a zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And as Nicholas brought up about the bylaw, we'll have a brief discussion right afterwards about it. But as far as that goes, I think we'll now close the public meeting at 8:48. I appreciate you, and I hope I've allowed everybody time for your comments. I certainly didn't want to or intend to cut anybody off, so we do appreciate that. So this concludes the public part of the meeting. You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to, okay? You can stay here till we leave if you're welcome to.
Do you want to take a few minute recess?
No,
Mackenzie?
I want,
You
we
want to
have one other planning
Okay.
thing we want to do,
okay.
and I want to deal that, and then
Okay.
we'll take a break.
Okay.
So right now, coming from the public meeting, I have a motion. Actually, there's 2 motions, but the one I'm going to introduce is that we receive the comments from the public meeting for information. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Is that a move? Yeah, moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Deputy Mayor Trinkowski. Any further comments on that? That'll go back to staff, and we'll get the other information that we need. I don't think we're under the gun for any time limit on this. When we get it, we'll share it. So If there's no more questions on that, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. So thank you. The next item that we'll deal with is with regards to a severance. And we'll deal with that. And then once we deal with that, we'll take a 5 or 10-minute break before we come back. So the planning matter that we have to deal with is a severance. It's entitled B5725. It is with regards to a severance by Jarmus. It's 6695, line 46. And John is here and he's going to walk us through this severance. So John, the floor is yours again.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So this application is B57-25. It's at the red star, as you see on the slides. It's located at 6695 line 46 in West Perth, and it's just north of Rodhagen. Just a quick summary. So it's a surplus farm dwellings consent application. The lot to be severed is 1.6 acres. And then the lot to be retained is 20.3 hectares. The area outlined in yellow will be rezoned A1, and the area outlined in red will be rezoned A3 special. The A1 zone is to recognize the dwelling as a residential use, and then the red portion will be to prohibit any sort of dwelling to be located on those lands in the future. So the subject lands do contain a secondary aggregate deposit identified in Appendix 1 in the Perth County Official Plan. And because the severed lot is proposed to fragment this deposit, planning staff have required an aggregate impact assessment to determine if the severance would preclude or hinder the establishment of a new operation or access to the resource. So you can see on the slide at the red arrow, that is where the property is located on Appendix 1 of the Perth County Official Plan. So the applicants retain Grit Engineering, who authored the AIS, and Grit concluded that after excavating 3 test pits to triangulate the deposit, only the test pit number 1 contained granular materials, whereas the other 2 did not. Grit further concluded that due to the variability of the stratigraphy between the test pits, extraction within the proposed severed lands was not considered feasible. So notice was provided on February 27th in accordance with the Planning Act. The severed lot is considered appropriate in size. The consolidated farm operation will be located directly to the east of the subject lands at 6647 line 46, and they will be owned by Mass Farms. Change of use permit condition exists in the conditions list for the detached building, as you can see behind the dwelling. It's in blue. And then the aggregate resource use would not be considered feasible. Therefore, the PPS and the Perth County Official Plan tests for development within a known aggregate deposit are satisfied. One quick clarification for condition number 12. Some simple wording changes are proposed. It will now read that the severed farm parcel shall be sold to the proposed buyers, Mass Farms Limited, as the existing farm dwelling is surplus to their needs. That's just simply to simplify the condition for future approvals. I can take any questions now.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions for John on this particular severance? Okay, I don't see any hands coming up. So I do have a recommendation here. And it's that the Council Municipality of West Perth recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate approve the consent application file B5725, and that council forward the conditions listed in the staff report dated April the 7th, 2026 of the County of Perth Land Division Committee, or as designate for consent file B 57-25, affecting the property legally described as part lot 28, concession 10, Logan, being east half 6695 line 46 in the municipality of West Perth. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor O'Donnell, seconder, Councillor Duck. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you, John. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break here. And then we'll be back and wrap up. So thank you, everybody. Okay, all right. We'll reconvene this council meeting then. Brings us to item 6.7, and the first item under 6.7 is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund update. And Clerk McMurray is going to give us that information.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. Good evening, council. So this report, it just has a highlight of what the kind of the transactions that took place for your OCIF funding, which is your Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. And so throughout the year, in 2025, we started with approximately $516,000. And then our allocation in 2025 was approximately 1.1 million. We earned interest on that account about 26,000. We did 954,000 approximately in projects. So it gives you a starting balance for 2026 of $722,000. And then, so what we've done for year 2026, so let me just recap. For 2025, the money went to the Wellington Street project, line 32 reconstruction, and work on asset management to come up with the 954. And that breakdown is in the report. So for 2026, like I said, we started with a balance of 722,000. Our allocation in 2026 is approximately 1.2. We don't have interest because we haven't calculated that as of yet. But through the budget process, we identified 1.4 approximately in projects. And those projects are the continuation of Wellington Street, structure 020H on line 21, line 49, line 32, and asset management. And that breakdown is also in the report. So with that, we will have approximately 488,000 to start 2027's capital budget. And so that's a breakdown of that grant. So if there's any questions on that, I gladly take them.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Any questions for Wendy on that? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. So the recommendation that we have is the Council Municipality of West Perth receives the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, OCIF, report for information. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Chessel, Councillor Rose. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, the next item then is the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF update, and Wendy's going to do that as well.
So similar to the last report, this is your Canada Community Building Fund, or CCBF, also known as your gas tax in previous years. And so this recommendation on this report is a little different. We're also seeking some reallocation of excess funds to go towards the arena project. So just to give you a breakdown, in 2025, we started with a balance of 26,000 approximately. We got 295,000 in funding in 2025. We earned about 5,000 in interest, and we had 285,000 in projects, leaving you with a balance of 42,000. So in the report, it identified, the projects for 2025, which was your James Street top coat and a culvert replacement. So in 2026, we allocated the funding 295 towards the arena project. Because we're looking at getting a loan, staff thought it would be advantageous to use the remainder funds sitting there for the CCBF, which is an additional 42,000, in hopes that we would borrow less money. Also in the report, there's a breakdown of the arena project. So if there's any questions on this report, I gladly take them.
Any questions for Wendy on that? Okay, we do have a recommendation.
Sorry, one question, please.
Oh, sorry, Andrew.
Not a problem. Not a problem, Your Worship. I noticed a line item. I think it's this report. I'm not switching screens quite fast enough here. $30,000 for workout equipment. I hadn't realized that we had agreed to put a gym into the new arena. I thought that was on a different plan. I was just wondering, $30,000 for workout equipment, where are we putting this?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to find the number in the report here that you're referencing. Am I missing it? Does any?
Yeah, what page are you referencing, Andrew?
Counselor Fournier, can you just clarify the page that you're?
Yeah, sorry, just 1 second, please. I'm sorry, I might be thinking of a different report. As I say, I'm not switching screens quite fast enough here. I'll find that and bring it up later. Thank you.
If I can, I think perhaps you've come across maybe the capital plan, and the 30,000 is kind of that outdoor accessible fitness equipment and other recreational activities. I believe like a concrete chess table was an example given. But there's nothing being added to the arena from a gym sense.
Okay, Andrew?
Yes, entirely. I'm sorry. I was actually thinking of the procurement plan. I was looking at the wrong report. Thank
No,
you.
that's fine. That's fine. No problem. Okay, did we move and second that or not? I can't remember. Okay, so we do have a recommendation that the Council of Municipality of West Perth approve the allocation of the remaining 2025 Canada Community Building Fund CCBF reserve balance of approximately 42,459.82 to the Arena Ice Plant Project. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. Any questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And the next one is the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. Wendy again.
So this is your standard allocation that we get from the province. Yes, from the province for the specialized transit system that's run through West Villa. So this allocation this year is 53,140. Sorry, I'm catching the next line there. 53,140. And so we'll receive those funds partway through the year, and then as the program requires the funds, we will allocate them the funds that they're needed. Council has also approved $1,500 to be allocated to them as part of the municipality's contribution to the program. So this is outside of PC Connect, and it deals with specialized mobility transit. So
This is solely for the mobility bus that operates out of West Perth Village.
Yes.
Any questions on that? Okay, recommendation that we have is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the letter of agreement with the Ministry of Transportation for the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program for 2026. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Harold. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And the next one is the good news about the windstorm.
I know you guys have been waiting for this one. So this is just a recap of the events that took place on July 24th of 2025. West Perth had a downburst, which we saw damage across the municipality, different roadsides with trees down. It definitely affected some parks within Mitchell. So in the report identifies the coverage that we were looking for. We had over $190,000 in damages that we paid for cleanup, for light fixtures being updated, and the tennis fence to be repaired. Through that, our insurance company, our adjuster, reviewed our policy and the claim, and the things that they can show in the policy for replacement are listed there, which is the baseball netting in Catterson, the damaged light standard at Catterson, and then there was a secondary bulb lighting at Ketterson Park, and then the repair of picnic tables and benches at the Lions Trail, and the fence repair at the tennis courts. What's not covered is any tree debris cleanup from roads or parks. So that's been outlined in the report in different sections of the policy. So it's not, we don't have any formal letter yet from our insurance company, but we're looking at roughly getting a check for $18,000. And so that would be less than our $10,000 deductible. So about $28,000 was covered through insurance. If there's any questions, I gladly take them.
Any questions for Wendy? Okay, again, we do have a recommendation here that Council Municipality West Perth receives the July 24th, 2025 windstorm insurance claim update report for information. Got a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Foster. Councillor Harold, okay. Oh, question.
Sorry, Your Worship, I just thought of it. So that's the damage claim that the insurance company will reimburse. Could you just maybe refresh our minds, through you, Mr. Mayor? Wendy, could you refresh our minds that the balance of the costs incurred, how is that under the 25 budget or the 26 budget? And what are we pulling that from reserves or operational costs, or how are we dealing with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now it's just being flowed through as an expense in 2025. And because we won't receive the funds until 2026, we'll show the revenue in 2026. So it will show as a loss. We're not quite yet finalizing your 2025 year end. We got a lot of pluses and minuses happening in 2025. So we're not prepared to make a recommendation at this point to pull from reserve if we need to.
Be another report forthcoming on how to deal with the loss.
If there's a loss, yeah,
Yeah.
what kind of strategy we're looking at.
Okay, so right now it's just going to be absorbed in whatever department budget it was incurred in, and then wait
Correct.
for the final year-end report.
Correct. And if we can absorb it in 2025, you would have surplus revenue in 2026 because you would have $18,000 as a revenue item with no
Thank you.
expenses.
Any other questions? Okay, it's been duly moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next item is the 2026 procurement plan, and this is the Wendy show tonight.
I try to get them all in at once. So this one here is your procurement plan for 2026. So senior staff went through items that they knew kind of what procurement approach they were going to take. So the list isn't exhaustive. There's still some items that need to kind of be thought about and how we're going to procure them. But this is a start. So as part of the attachment of the report, you can see different departments. It was sorted kind of on the procurement method, which is the 5th column in. And then in the report, it summarizes this report in a condensed version. So there's 48 projects on the list, equaling about $14 million. So looking to our new procurement policy, part of it is going through this process. The budget's been approved, and then the procurement strategy is this report. And then once we kind of move forward, our hope from last year is to improve the reporting so you guys know a little bit more about what was issued, if it was plus or minus of the budget, and who it was awarded to. In the report, it does talk about our use of buying groups this year has been increased. So we've brought in Kinetic to our buying group. We are looking at 2 others. So that should help kind of speed the process. The approval's already been done through those groups, but we still test to make sure it's competitive. There's another point in here I wanted to highlight. Oh, yeah, it was the The one grant also requires us to bring forward and has to be awarded by council. And that's for the Hibbert Street waste treatment plant, that $2.5 million grant. Within the agreement, it requires a resolution. So when we see those, we kind of tag them and we'll be bringing them forward for those. So if there's any questions on any of the projects or how we're procuring them, gladly help to answer any of those questions.
Okay, questions for Wendy on that? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, your worship, through you. Thanks, Wendy, for the report. It's helpful that council's receiving the tracking summary that charts the progress of the various procurements and the purchases that are made after council's authorized it through the budget. I guess my question, looking forward, is when will council receive a timely report on the actual prices for the items that are procured? And I'm thinking specifically larger ticket items, like example, in our public works projects, we have capital projects there, and other, I call them large ticket items such as equipment or heavy trucks or light vehicles. I guess the reason I'm asking is that council does give the authorization via the budget process based on the staff's cost estimates, but this council no longer receives the information on the actual bid pricing results the way we used to. So I guess what I'm concerned about or interested about is how do we know that the money that we're budgeting out, as Mayor McKenzie would like to say, how do we know we're getting the most bang for our buck in terms of what the market prices are versus our estimates? And it would just be, I would find it helpful to know that if costs are increasing, where are they increasing and why? Is it simply a case of the market is overcharging when they shouldn't be, or is there a legitimate reason for some of the pricing that's out there? So right now I have no sense of where we're at on that. And I know a couple of the projects last year, capital projects, the dollar figure seemed rather high. It was for road work and culverts, seemed rather high for what we got. And not having the tender price, receiving the tender price report, not knowing what the quantities are, it's hard for us to make a determination if we're spending our money efficiently or strategically. Do we have to think about do a rethink on how we're spending our capital money? So just questions like that arise. So just wanted to bring those concerns forward and see what we can do to sort that out.
Those are all great questions and feedback. I know we're looking to enhance this report, and so that feedback we'll take and see what we can come up with. I know we have been collecting unit prices over the last little bit, especially with the asset management plan, to make sure our replacement values are close to what they should be. The province does require us to do replacement values. It's an annual requirement now in order to receive your funding. So we have been tracking unit prices. We haven't quite made the next step to then test them against what we're seeing. Unit pricing can be tricky. We have seen it where I'll use sidewalks, for example. We may see a unit price for concrete at one price, and then you'll see it as a different price. Sometimes it's just knowing how that unit price was constructed. Sometimes we don't have all that information, but we're gathering this information. So hopefully we'll be able to step up that for you guys and be able to communicate if we're seeing a trend in unit prices going up and down for water, piping, or wastewater type of thing. And I know we've had discussions about kind of a threshold of a value to try and bring more comprehensive report updates to council. And I think this year we definitely have targeted the arena and the Heron Business Park to bring updates. So if there's certain projects that you want, we can definitely tag them and make sure you get detailed reports on them.
Yeah, thanks, through you, Mayor McKenzie. Thanks, Wendy. It would just be helpful if we had more information, like if we know what the budget was, what the tender results were, and then what quantities that you mentioned about tracking the unit prices, what quantities are involved in each project and what are the corresponding unit prices to know if we're in the right order of magnitude with our spending, or is there something not adding up? Because we've discussed an extensive list of capital projects over the next 10 years involving a large amount of money, and we want to make sure we maximize our spending effort to get as much built for the amount of dollars that we have. Thanks.
Yeah, and definitely if we see dips in unit prices, that's our time to kind of act on certain projects. So definitely we're building that unit price to help us.
Councillor Fournier?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just a quite simple question, really. I was wondering what contract by exception meant in terms of the surveillance cameras for the Welcome Center and for the library. And I was also wondering why we were spending $30,000 on workout equipment, now that I'm at the correct report to ask that question.
So the by exception just means we already have a vendor in place for other cameras. So it just made sense to single source out for that same application. It sits on our server. That way you don't have multiple people in on the server. And then it's just easier for the app to work if we have one app versus two apps to monitor all of our facilities. So that's why that one is by exception. And then the, sorry, what was your second question?
$30,000 for workout equipment. I mean, that sounds neat. Where are we putting it?
So that was approved through the budget process, and I believe it's at the Lions Park. If Nick's online, maybe he might have some more details, but it was a council or a capital request within the budget process.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Bink?
Mayor McKenzie, I was wondering maybe on the next version of this a procurement appendix that it would also include the procurement for the Heron Industrial Park works that we're planning to do over the next year or so. That might be a good addition to this appendix as well.
Okay, so noted. Yeah. Any comment, Wendy, on that?
No, I think we just kind of, we recognized that it wasn't complete. And so we just brought forward what we had. And then instead of waiting to have it all done, we figured there was enough, there's $14 million here, enough to explain. It just, we're trying to build internal documents to help us so it doesn't get too busy and it's easy to communicate. So we're working on that side internally, but hopefully this will become a standard report and then we'll just be able to filter it the way we need to.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, the recommendation we have is that the municipality of West Perth receives the 2026 procurement plan report for information. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Rose. Last chance for questions. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Okay, thank you, Wendy. All right, next item is in the clerk's department, and we do have a request for a section 4 drain petition. So James, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you through you, Chair. Good evening, members of council. This report is just to seek your direction on the drainage petition that was submitted under section 4 of the Act. Petition was received from John Van Nest for a property in the Hibbert Ward. So the drain we're speaking of is located on the farm west of Cromarty, and essentially it is in need of an outlet drain. So the petition's been reviewed by our superintendent, who has no concerns. Next step, if council wishes to proceed, is to appoint the engineer. We have Brandon Widner of Reed Associates, who is agreeable to taking on this work. So I'll leave it there unless there's any questions.
Any questions for James on that? Okay, the recommendation that we have is the municipality of West Perth accepts the petition received by John Van Ness under section 4 of the Drainage Act. And that staff be directed to notify the affected landowners and appropriate agencies of council's decision to proceed with the drainage works, and that council appoint Brandon Widener of Spreet and Associates to prepare the engineer's report for the proposed new drainage works. Mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And the next one, next couple, I guess, have to do kind of election issues. So corporate use of resources during election policy.
Well, thank you. And through you, Walter, or Mayor McKenzie, good evening. Purpose of the report is just to summarize a review of our current use of corporate resources during an election policy. So you have this policy in place now here at the municipality. Really what's it's intended to do is ensure that municipal resources aren't used for election related purposes in an election year. And it just maintains that level playing field for everybody. Gives clear direction to members of council and staff during the election period. Policy is working well, so it's remained largely unchanged from what you have in place. Updates we're proposing are minor, but they're important. So we've added a definition for election related purposes just to improve clarity around what that is. And we've expanded the policy to explicitly include municipal social media, messaging platform, and other digital tools. And that these changes really just reflect how communication methods are changing since 2022 and past. And we just want to ensure the policy is applied consistently across our traditional media forms and our digital media forms. No real financial impact with this, so I'll leave it there, and we recommend approving the changes. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for James on that? Okay. Recommendation is municipality of West Perth approve the updated corporate policy GG 003, corporate use of resources during an election, attached as Appendix A to this report. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And delegation of authority.
Great. Thank you, through you, Chair. This report's in respect to our delegation authority bylaw for a potential restricted action period during the upcoming municipal election. So this bylaw is really meant to ensure that if council does become restricted under the act, we can continue to carry out our essential business by temporarily delegating those authorities to the CAO. Again, something this municipality has done in past and is pretty common across the municipal sector. So the purpose of this report is really just to provide an overview of those restricted acts provision and seek council's approval of the bylaw. So under the municipal act, there's certain circumstances where we can find ourselves in a restricted acts period, or what's sometimes referred to as a lame duck period. There's really 2 points in time that this can happen. So the first is following nomination day, which is August 21st of this year. That's the close of the nomination period, through to voting day, which is October 26th. That's the first period when that could occur. The second period where it could occur is following voting day on October 26th until your new council takes office, which is November 16th of this year. How this could occur is in West Perth case, the threshold would need to be fewer than 9 members of the current council, either running for re-election in the first period I just spoke about, or being re-elected in the second period I spoke about. So 9 is your number that you're looking at there. If less than 9 members of the current council submit a nomination form during the period, we will be in lame duck. If less than 9 members of this current council are re-elected, we'll be in lame duck from that period of voting day to the new council takes office. So again, if triggered, council be restricted from certain actions, mainly around hiring or dismissing certain staff, disposing over property over 50,000, and improving expenditures over that same amount. So to address this, same with past years, we've prepared a bylaw that would delegate those over to the CAO. That's what municipalities do. They delegate that to the CAO as appropriate to ensure continuity during those times. Really important to note, this bylaw doesn't come into effect if the criteria is not met. So if we don't run into that number of 9 that I just spoke of here, then this bylaw does not come into effect. It only comes into effect if needed for that specific time period. I'll leave it there and answer any questions. Thanks.
Questions for James? Go ahead, Diane.
In regards to strong mayor's powers, does that get eliminated during this time as well, or how does that come into effect?
That's a really good question, and I'm glad that you asked that. There's certainly some uncertainty about the impact of strong mayor legislation and how that might impact this at this time. Certainly, the AMCTO group is seeking clarification on that. I can say to this group, we'll be sitting in on a call on Thursday of this week that might shed some light on that. But the questions being asked of our provincial partners at the ministry of what the impact of it is, because it's not explicit in the legislation. The legislation does not explicitly speak to the restricted acts period and the impact of strong mayors to it. So it is silent on it. And so that's certainly a question that is out there. I think I'll leave it there. Yeah, good question.
Anybody else? I always say when this comes up, you're far, Nicholas knows what I'm going to say. You're far better to be a lame duck than a dead duck. Okay, the motion that we have then is the Council Municipality of West Perth approve the draft delegation of authority during restricted acts period bylaw attached as Appendix A to this report, right? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Vink. Any discussion or questions on that? Councillor Foster?
So if strong mayor powers are affected, will we have to revisit this then?
Through the chair. No, not at this time. No, it is recommended that you have this bylaw in place. If you don't have the bylaw in place, then you would refer to the act. You would truly be in a lame duck situation. So it's simply that I can't confidently say what the impact of the strong mayor legislation is at this time. So I'm not willing to do that. That's really all it is. But no, to answer your question specifically, this bylaw would not need to come back. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. A recommendation in the Council Municipality of West Perth approve the draft delegation of authority during restricted acts period bylaw attached as Appendix A. Is that right? Or is that the same one? No, that's it to this report. Okay. So we did have a mover. No, we have a mover and
We do
second.
have a mover and
Yep.
seconder,
It's getting late, eh? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. Some correspondence there, one from Tim Hortons, Smile Cookie Campaign. And I believe Lindsay is kind of looking after that if she hasn't contacted us, she may be.
Yeah, and Lindsay sent out a little bit of a sign up information there for members of council, but certainly maybe after the meeting here, I'll make sure that you guys have that information. And then anyone who is looking to fill up, week of April 27th, I want to say offhand, we'll get you signed up.
Yeah, I know. When I was in the other day, I just signed up, so I'm not sure. She said she would send me a text the day before. Or what.
And we've got some sign up information that went out to our
Yeah.
internal office team today. So
Yeah.
it's getting out there, and certainly anyone who might be available, please sign up.
Yeah, and what it involves, when they have their camp day, that's when it's going to be more involved. They want you washing windshields and stuff, but I think this is just decorating cookies at this time, so it's not that bad. There's no questions then, motion that we accept all correspondence as received. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. No council reports. We do have two bylaws to deal with, I believe. The last bylaw we're not going to touch. So bylaw 26 is a bylaw to appoint a deputy treasurer. And bylaw 27 is restricted acts delegated authority. So the recommendation is that council give first and second reading to bylaw 26 and 27, the 7th day of April. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Chessel. Questions? All those in favor? It's carried. And then the next one is that we give third and final reading to bylaw 26 and 27, the 7th day. And I'm going to, because I miss them all the time, I'm going to ask Andrew, would you like to move that?
I certainly would, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And seconder for that motion then, Councillor Rose. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Upcoming events. I guess the one that I want to highlight here, and I said to Lindsay, I would see if we have good numbers here. The West Perth Volunteer Appreciation Event. I would expect that we would have all council people there with their spouses, if possible. So is that, am I assuming right here that we'll have at least 11 people or maybe more from council at that? She's trying to get a handle on numbers is what it is. And I know there was a chance you could email in, but I don't know how many responded. If you've responded, fine. But I get a feeling that everybody will be there. And by all means, bring your spouse if you wish, significant other or whatever. Okay, that was the one. I think that was the cleanup day is on the 18th. The other one is the Youth Unlimited Spring Banquet, and it's on the 18th. And usually there's some of us go. So there's been some years where we've had a whole table. And I don't know if there's any interest or not. Like if there is, if you can let me know, I would notify them. You can order the tickets online, or I think we can just pay for them that night at the door. If they know that we're coming, they would accommodate us that way. So it's usually it's a banquet with silent auction, and it's to support the youth center downtown. So I don't know. Is there any interest from members of council here? Bill? Okay. Anybody else? Dean? Okay, so
And Councillor Fournier.
oh, okay, all right. So 1, 2, 3. Who wasn't there? Council Fournier. Okay, I just got to write this down or I'll forget. So there's Phil and Dean and Fournier and myself. Okay. So Phil, 2 people or 1 person? 1? Okay. Just checking. All right. Okay. Nope. We're good? Okay.
If I could, your worship, on upcoming events, the 18th, I think this has been circulated already to council and staff that Richard Wright, the memorial gathering is on the 18th at 1 p.m. at 65 Oxford Street in Stratford from 1 till 5.
Right. Thanks for that. It wasn't on the list here, so I knew that too. So yeah, thanks, Dean. The tree power program is on the 25th and it's here. And then we've already talked about April the 27th. There's your smile cookie. So it's there. Yep. Okay. And then down the road, the rubber ducky race is on the May the 2nd. So yeah. And I don't believe there's any notices of motion. I do have, and I'm looking at the clock here, I do have one thing I'm gonna ask. And I just want input as much as anything. And it's with regards to music in the park. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but some of you have been involved with it. I know Doug has been and Murray has been. And it's in the Lions Park and there's the pavilion there to do it. The thought was, could it be moved for one of the events or one or more, but one anyways, to try it at Catterson Park. The feeling being that there's lots of shade there underneath the pavilion. And that does make sense. But you know, it's kind of a unique experience when you're down at the Lions Park and it's open. So I guess looking for your comments as much as anything. I think it would be ideal to have it as a backup. If it looks like it's going to rain, we put a sign at the Lions Park, just say move to Catterson Park and have it, then you never have to cancel it. You could always have it, and there's lots of room to sit underneath there. Any comments on that? Murray?
I think it'd be a good idea. Even if it's super, super hot, sometimes we ran into trouble. There wasn't enough shade for everybody.
They like to conjugate on the trees, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If you could, but that would be a great idea.
So you think like do one or two there, or would you move them all there? Or?
Oh, because I'm not on that
Yeah,
committee anymore.
yeah.
I don't want to step on Doug's toes, but I think it sounds okay.
Recommendation.
Okay, yeah, well, I think, we can certainly try a couple anyways. The problem when you start moving it around is it gets confusing sometimes for people as to know where to go, but, yeah, okay, no, that's fair, good.
Pardon your worship?
Oh, sorry, Andrew, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was trying to sneak in on the upcoming events thing there, but the West Perth Community Gardens is having its first volunteer get together at Veterans Park at 4:30 on Friday the 10th. We're expecting about 10 volunteers to be showing up, and if anybody else from council would like to attend, that'd be great.
Okay, and that is, you said on the 10th?
Yes, sir. 10th at 4 o'clock. 4:30 p.m. this Friday.
Okay, yep, so noted. Okay, good. Okay, all right. Okay, that has that, I think. So it brings us right down to 14 and 14.1. And the recommendation is the bylaw 2826 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time the 7th day of April 2026. Moved by Murray, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And then bylaw 28 be read a third time and finally passed the 7th day of April. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And finally, that the Council of Municipality of West Perth adjourn the meeting at 9:49. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, we are adjourned. Thank you.